teachers of Reddit. What's the weirdest thing a student answered to tell me a fun fact about yourself? A guy in my class introduced himself by telling us how he decided he wanted to study philosophy because one day he was really high peeing in the street and he saw a couple of people working and he wondered what they were doing. So he realized his pain was wandering. He dropped out like 2 months later. Modern day Diogenes. We did one of those 2 truths 1 lie bits. Girl stands up and says, I've never been out of the country. I'm a twin. I love playing sports. I knew this girl beforehand and knew she didn't have a twin, so picked that one. Nope. She had a conjoined twin that died in utero and had to be surgically removed, and she's now missing the last vertebrae on her spine. Showed us the scar and everything. Apparently the lie was the first one as she'd been to Mexico. I had a student say a similar thing. 1. I really like reading books too. I had a stroke 3 years ago. 3. I'm a triplet. This was the first few days at a new school for me and his twin sister was in my class. So, he's a twin, right? Nope. They are triplets, but his brother is in a different school. BC he's incredibly smart. This kid was in a special program 1 day a week. BC he was smart too. So his brother must have been a genius. His sister just sat there like yay, one brother is a genius and this does brilliant. I'm just me. She was a fantastic kid, but had a lot of self-esteem issues for obvious reasons. Edit. The lie was that he liked reading books. True that he had a stroke. Had students, aged 11, sharing strategies for dealing with difficult emotions, one at a time in a big circle. One girl talked about digging her nails into her face whenever she was feeling stressed or anxious, and I had to explain to the class why self-harm was not a good coping strategy. How did you explain it? A student once told my wife that her daddy had a special device that he had to blow into to start his truck. He's definitely not an alcoholic. My dad clogged the toilet this morning and that's why I'm feeling frustrated. -5-year-old child. I will say the question was how are you doing this morning? But I could barely keep from laughing out loud. I have vibes. My toddler once told visiting friends that daddy takes long poops. I mean, I was having a flare up and had some extended bathroom sessions. But, dang little dude, not cool. I'm terrified/amused about what he might share at school in the near future. In my psychology class, we were talking about the early signs of serial killers and the quietest girl who never spoke told the story of when she lived in Chicago. She had a friend around 5th grade who would always stomp on baby birds and once put his hamster in the microwave. Well, his parents were having difficulty keeping up with his antics, so they sent him to his grandmother's, who he promptly stabbed to death when she woke him up for school. So that was interesting. I'm shifting in my chair just thinking of this exchange. I'm not a teacher, but this guy in my clan named Shane has this medical condition that causes him to grow tons of hair at an early age. Full beard in middle school. He would say I'm Shane and I'm very hairy. He could say my name is Shane, but friends call me Harry. During French class, a guy in my class said that he liked stabbing children. He meant that he fences, but didn't know the exact translation for that. I love the French class fun facts. In a beginner French class, I had to accidentally come out to the class when I was asked whether I had a spouse. Je suis un lesbian. It was awkward. That he has been to juvie multiple times and is currently on probation. Then he pulled up his pants enough that everyone could see his ankle monitor. That was something. Then he pulled up his pants, not actually the worst direction he could have pulled his pants, though. I've had my hand up a sheep's bum, shocked me slightly. Child of a farming family, helping with lambing season. Up the butt. Haha. My friend is really quiet, he doesn't really talk unless talked to. He's really cool though, and has some things he enjoys doing. Literally second year I knew him, the teacher asked this, and he said he's a professional bowler with a 300 best, and I was like, why haven't you told me this? That's amazing. I guess it just never came up. Haha. Knew him for a whole year and never knew that. Guess he had a spare fact. When I was in my first year at university, my law and society professor made each student get up, say his/her name, and tell why they picked law school. Well, a guy got up, said his name, and the professor interrupted him by asking anon, "Are you related to X?" The guy, "Yes professor." "He is my grandfather." Then the professor got excited and started talking about what great of a guy X is and that he haven't heard of him in years. Then the professor asked how he was, and On replied he is dead, so the whole class was trying to hold the laughter. It pretty much broke the class that first day. At least he said good things about the grandpa instead of calling him an ass and finding out after he was deceased. Not a teacher, but in 3rd grade, we would do this weekly "how was your weekend" sort of thing, where we'd sit in a circle and share. This one girl casually goes, "I found out that my biological father didn't want me," in a super nonchalant tone and everything. I still remember the awkward tension. Deleted. Students told me that there is a chapter dedicated to him in a dental surgery textbook because of a very rare disorder that he had as a child. I may still have that essay. My brother had something like this. When he was somewhere around 9 or 10 years old, he had to have 12 teeth surgically removed. He just had too many growing too quickly. It was so crazy that the oral surgeon apparently negotiated a deal with my father. The surgeon will completely pay for my brother's surgery in exchange for taking a couple extra x-rays and lots of photos to be published in an academic journal of some sort. Not a teacher, but I was a helper in a middle school classroom. A young girl, who seemed uninterested, said, with no hesitation, that she can chug an entire bottle of beer. She got expelled later that year for keeping drugs in her locker. Brutal. I'm a middle school teacher, and I find that most adults who don't spend much time around kids don't realize just how young middle schoolers are. I mean, lol, immature middle schoolers is kind of a meme, but seriously, we are talking about 11-year-olds here. I was an ESL teacher in Indonesia, and a student once told me every morning she cleaned the cheese on her bed. I asked her to clarify, worried she had a serious digestive issue. She answered, "I brush my teeth, wash face and clean bedsheet." I did the same for a few years, and it was great. I remember one class had to make posters of something that meant a lot to them. Most drew pics of their family with mom, dad, sister, brother etc labeled on them. Some drew their pets or something. Some drew BTS. The usual stuff that you'd expect. One kid's paper just had a huge picture of a hand flipping someone off with the word piss in huge letters across it. I was like, WTF Sayakura? It took me a moment to realize that she had meant to write peace, but spelt it using phonics from Bahasa. Also had to explain that the peace sign has the palm outwards. I teach ESL, and every lesson we start the class by sharing something good that happened to us over the last week or so. Needless to say, kids share the most random things ever. I have many weird stories because of that. We enforce a rule that they need to share good things, so they don't start one-upping each other over whose grandma had the worst death. Lol. One day, a student said, "I was riding my bike over the weekend when I fell. I could see where it was going, but didn't have enough time to enforce the rule. When he just spat out, I fell over a wired fence and cut my neck. It just kept gushing blood, a lot of blood." I reminded him that we were only sharing good news when he said, "It's good because I'm still alive." I had a good laugh and agreed, but the damage was done. Every kid after him wanted to share about the most horrific injury they had or witnessed. Once the boulder had started rolling, you can't stop it. I hate when this happens. Close bracket. Someone in a class once told everyone about how his grandparents were arrested for keep a bunch of adopted children in cages. He said that he used to play with the kids when he was young, but he was too young to understand that the conditions they were in weren't normal. They kept kids in cages and locked in rooms for years before they were discovered and arrested. Yup. Fun fact. Edit. I'm not a teacher. This person who told the story was in a class with me as a young adult. Was he telling the truth? Okay, so I had psychology back in the spring semester before COVID hit, and I sat next to a girl who I was good friends with from high school. Professor asks her for a fun fact, and she said I like to watch people get cut open. She obviously said it for effect, but she cleared it up by saying she liked watching videos of people getting plastic surgery because it's satisfying to watch. The explanation is just as bad. In the context of having students introduce themselves one by one to a new boy in a small high school class, a girl said her parents got her a nose job and a boob job. Is that even legal to get a boob job for a minor? I have 2 thumbs on this hand. I'm raising cockroaches in my closet to sell to the reptile shop. Edit to say, thanks for the silver. I want to clarify that these quotes come from different kids, but it's definitely more entertaining to imagine them being the same. Also, I learned so much about cockroach raising from the comments. I wish I had asked more follow-up questions at the time. Hey, do be a roach colonizer a decent side hustle? Even though I'm a professor, nothing that's ever been revealed by this question has ever been as awkward or uncomfortable as an occasion that happened when I was still a student. This was when I was in my MFA program for creative writing. If you've never been in an arts program before, it probably won't surprise you to learn that they can attract some weird personalities. It was the first day of a fiction workshop and the professor decided that he wanted us to all share something interesting about ourselves, and for some reason one girl, Ashley, decided that this would be a good opportunity for her to tell us about her long history of drug abuse and the equally long period of mental psychosis she went through as a result of it. She didn't do this as a quick answer either, but as a long drawn out list of every single drug she had ever experimented with, followed by a catalog of every single delusion she suffered as a result. The only one I can remember now is that at one point she became convinced she was a millionaire and her family was hiding her money from her. All of this was delivered in a monotone monologue with her eyes glazed over that lasted at least 5 minutes, which was met at the end with a long, awkward silence before the professor said, well, that was definitely something interesting, and moved on to the next person. I had a similar instance with a mature student in my first year of uni. If you wanted to be a course rep, you had to stand up in front of the lecture hall, 300 odd people, and do a mini presentation on yourself and why you should be voted in. Most people were normal, but this one woman stood up and immediately launched into a detailed list of all the mental disorders she has. Bipolar is one I remember, and how difficult her life is. I might have been sympathetic if she hadn't called all of her fellow clamorous idiotic children a week before for not believing her anti-vax propaganda. Mind you, she was maybe 28 over 29, so not really mature, but Jesus, did she have the social skills of a hermit. Not me, but my brother. He told the teacher last night my family ate beaver for dinner. I was much older and had left home by then. The class laughed. The teacher accused him of lying. The principal was brought into this, and my mother had to go in for a meeting. She chewed them up one side and down the other because we had a cousin who was a trapper and he had sent a batch of beaver thighs for the family to enjoy. Although my brother was telling the truth, he told me later that he did say that for the effect, disrupting the class. Why in the world would the teacher make a big deal out of that? Waste of time and energy for everyone. I'm a teacher from the UK, form tutor to a year 7 class, 11-year-olds. To get to know each other on the first day, I had them take it in turns to say their name, which primary school they've come from, and an interesting fact, like favorite food or color. We get to the last kid in the class. His fact is that he has 6 fingers on one hand. Coolest kid ever. Lol, that's like my brother. He was born with 6 fingers on each hand, but he had them removed as a baby. When he found out around age 10, he got so mad because he said he could been really cool and really fast at typing. Kid in my kindergarten class said my PP fell off at Disneyland. I didn't ask any follow-up questions. My Rick fell off. I don't ask for a fun fact, but on the first day I always ask, what's your most recent obsession? Low stakes, building affinity networks, etc. etc. In my first semester, a student said air, as in oxygen. My husband is an aerospace engineer who used to work specifically on air systems for private jets, and legitimately, he was obsessed with air/oxygen for an extended period of time. He would come home and just be so paranoid about the specifics of the air/oxygen pressure system design he was leading. I knew what I was getting into marrying an engineer, but oh boy, I did not see an oxygen obsession coming. It wasn't weird, but actually cute and funny. I was teaching 5th grade and this kid, white as paper, goes, my name is, but you can call me LeBron. He had an obsession with LeBron James, and I did in fact call him LeBron whenever I wanted to get his attention. Great kid. Damn, are you my English teacher? Cause this sounds like something she would do. I know a lot about medieval torture equipment. I've researched some hella painful ways to die. I'm using that whenever someone asks me that question. I teach middle school. This one still takes the cake. That his mom and dad have the same parents. I asked him to clarify because I didn't understand what he was saying, and he said I only have one set of grandparents. They had the same parents. I quickly moved to the next student so no one else would realize that this kid just told the class that his parents were siblings. I talked to him about it the next day in private, and he said that he got it mixed up. His parents don't have the exact same parents. They shared a dad. I felt so much better when the mom called me to let me know her elderly stepfather married her husband's elderly mother. Still weird, but much better. My mom married her brother-in-law. That was always confusing when I started telling people as a kid. During an introductory activity for my new class, a boy, aged 9, got up and said my dog has to wear a cone on its head because dad had his bollocks cut off. Damn English language. At first I thought the dog bit off the father's balls. A student, not a teacher, but once we were going around a circle during percussion camp in the front ensemble and my teacher goes, "Hello everyone, my name is," and I have chiz my pants as an adult. Definitely one of the weirder ones I've heard. Knowing drummers, I'm not a bit surprised. Not a teacher, but on the first day of 9th grade we had to form a circle and say one thing about ourselves that we thought was unique. When it was this dude's turn, let's call him Mike. Mike stands up and says in a really serious tone goes, "My mom and dad grow weed. His house got raided the next day and his dad got arrested SMH. His house got raided the next day and his dad got arrested SMH. Who snitched?" My arm is ducked y'all in the deepest southern drawl and proceeded to wildly swing his ducked up arm around. He was 12, had Erb's palsy, and also got detention that day. He might be one of my fat students. I can play this in my head, and it is hilarious. Not a teacher, but the daughter of one. My dad had a student tell him during the fun fact question in detail about how his goldfishes died that morning, and how he experimented on their corpses. He had pictures on his phone of the skin off and the intact skeleton next to it. He is a successful taxidermist now, so silver linings I guess. Glad he put his talents to a constructive use. Opposite side of the classroom, but on day 1 of class our professor spent most of the time talking about himself, his mental health, and how he was friendly with students. While he didn't say anything specifically creepy, the more he talked, the more put off I was. It just seemed deeper than a get to know you as the first time I'm meeting you speech should have gone. It was an intro to research class and I already had research experience, so I got permission to waive it, and I dropped the class. Later learned he killed his previous tar/girlfriend before killing himself. I have several questions. 1 guy, I love rape. Sometimes I rape. Sometimes me and my friends like to get together and listen to rape. Some of my favorite rappers include Tupac, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Biggie. My favorite rape song is English was not his first language. He had us in the first half, not gonna lie, edited to add the continuation and make it clear everyone figured out what he meant once he started listed the famous rappers. How did that go? I was in one of the first small required classes for my teaching degree and everyone in the class was studying to teach. It was day 2 or 3 and we were doing a get to know you activity where we share something about ourselves. I don't remember the exact question, but it had something to do with what you regret take back. A guy came in late when almost everyone has answers the question and the professor asked him the questions and he thought for a moment and said, "I regret letting my friend talking me into dropping acid." The class was silent for a good 20 seconds until the professor said, "Maybe next time we only share things that are legal." I hadn't seen him in any other teacher class since. Still laugh about it to this day. That question is such a setup. I mean, you shouldn't have admitted to dropping acid, but that's a hard one to come up with an answer for on the spot. That doesn't make you look bad, unless it's something eye roll worthy like "I regret not finding my pain for teaching sooner." Not a teacher, but a few years ago on the first day of school this kid in one of my classes casually answered, "I have a restraining order on my dad." That's actually a smart move. Now everyone in class knows that this father can't come pick him up. Not me, and not a fun fact, but teacher/student story related. A close friend was doing an activity where the teacher had everyone anonymously write down some traumatic event or something that happened to them. My friend couldn't think of one, so he made one up. Little did he know the teacher randomly selected some to read out loud in front of the class, and his was chosen. He had written, "When I was 9 I was forced to rape my neighbor's cat." The class went dead silent. The teacher was speechless. My friend nearly had an aneurysm trying to hold in the laughter. What class would it be a good idea to read out random traumatic events? I'm not a psych major, but that seems like a real bad idea. You will think less of me if you Google me. Well, did you? I'm not a teacher, but back when I was 16 I was kicked out of class for answering. I set my balls on fire and swing them around for people's entertainment. Even though the rest of my class confirmed it was true, I still do it sometimes. Yo, that is really cool. And I thought I had interesting hobbies, lol. I remember one kid used it as an opportunity to explain that he believed in the flying spaghetti monster. Do you question the supremacy of the noodly one, infidel? I'm a student, but a kid in my class said that he loves chicken nuggets, then sat down and didn't say anything to anyone else for a month. I have so much admiration yet confusion for him. Nugget is real. I had a student tell me that sometimes his dad got drunk and asked his mom for things. As I was starting to tell him he didn't need to elaborate any further, he continued with "like soup," and he yells it like soup up. It took every bit of restraint to not laugh. It's been years and years since that happened, but I still laugh when I think about it. We need the soup up. Not a teacher, but this happened when I was 17 at school camp during a bonding exercise. Teacher, tell us 2 truths and 1 lie about yourself, and we have to guess the lie. Weird kid, I play PlayStation, I like Doritos, and I'm an alcoholic. The teacher, the lie is you are an alcoholic. Weird kid, got you, I play Xbox. My god, the look on the teacher's face. Not surprised at all. Sadly, I hear stories about kids cutting cocaine in the library. Not a teacher, but first day of high school, when we did introductions, one of the popular girls said, "Hi, I'm Macy, and I'm trash." Wait, no, I'm fan trash. And then proceeded to explain that she read smutty fanfics to every and any of the teacher that asked what fan trash is. We were 11. British high school. This is so very British upper school. There is always one. A girl we went to school with fully licked the side of a teacher's face from chin to forehead and was known for smacking the pet teacher's ass. She got kicked out for a week for unwanted sexual contact. I said my dad steal cars. It was something my parents always told us growing up as a joke. The teacher just laughed and said that's nice. My dad used to joke that he was off to the coal mines every morning. He also never told me what his job actually was, so I just believed that he worked in the coal mines, despite the fact that we lived in Southern California and he wore a suit and tie to work every day. He was the CFO of a subsidiary of a company you've probably heard of. I was just a little bit off. I found my dad who hung himself, a 5th grader. Yikes, poor kid. Follow-up question. Teachers that put everyone on the spot like that. The duck. One time a teacher in university made us introduce ourselves and say why you picked this class. So I said my name is redacted and I picked this class because, well, you need ECTs and you have to pick something. They didn't like me very much. That when he wiped in the bathroom this morning, there was blood on the toilet paper. Lol. Be honest, was it you? And did those sweet pants used to be blue? First day of intro to lit during my freshman year of college. When asked an interesting fact about myself, I said I refused to bungee jump. Slightly confused, my professor took the bait. My professor replied, "That's sort of random. Why do you refuse to bungee jump? Is it a certain fear?" To which my reply was, "To be honest with ya sir, a broken rubber brought me into this world, so I'm going to make damn sure one doesn't take me out of it." Luckily, the professor was a chill guy. The entire class exploded with laughter, and it was a good time. You can't make a hungry man jump. Not a teacher, but I just did a first aid course. During introductions, say your name and 1 fact about yourself. Dude says proudly he once had over 300k of unpaid parking tickets. I'm not a teacher, but this may qualify. As a freshman in college, this kid named Brenton told our class his name was Brent 5 on, but the 5 is silent. He was a weird cat. I mean, do you man? But it was the most awkward silence from the lecturer and professor I have ever witnessed. I hate that I remember this. Along the same avenue after an winter half term, the teacher asked, "How was your break?" My class was silent for some glorious seconds when it was my turn, and I said, "Well, my granddad died and my dad got married, yes, in that order." My teacher asked my mum if it was true at parents' evening a few days later. Sorry, Mr. Moore. Hamlet version 2. Not a teacher, but my friend said masturbation is his pain. Thanks to the virus, his pain is in fashion. I have 17 piercings, but only 6 are readily visible. I'm trying to work out where the other 11 go, like tongue, nips, belly, rick/clit, webbing, smiley, collar. I'm missing 2, unless they had labia/multiple Prince Alberts. My first year, as an earnest and ideological teacher in a very rough underserved area, I got all the students in a circle on the first day to talk about what we'd done that summer. I pointed to a student who'd been engaged me before class and said, "What did you do this summer that could inspire us?" His answer, "I did the last 2 months of a sentence for stealing a car." I hadn't expected that. So I pointed to another student and said, "Okay, that's great. Let's talk about what you did this summer." That student said, "Yes, I had such a good summer. I went to camp and..." Laughing, Lem, stop lying. I did the last 2 months of a sentence with that guy, cause I stole that car him. That's fucking great. In my public speaking class at a community college, we had to get up and do a speech about our experience that really changed our lives or an important memory and how it made us who we are. On the first day, a guy who was a veteran volunteered to go first. He proceeded to talk about the day he was captured and sexually assaulted by enemy soldier and how he now goes around and helps other soldiers with the Wounded Warrior Project. It was difficult for anybody to follow that. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. Next guy comes up like the day my mom stopped doing my laundry. I tried to make conversation with a 6th grade boy who didn't have any friends in my class. I asked him what music he listens to, and he said mukbang soundscapes. If you don't know, mukbang is when people eat a ridiculous amount of food in one setting. I had a student who has an identical twin brother 2 years younger than him. His dad was a pro athlete who had the money to freeze an egg after splitting. His wife then carried both at separate times. This is really cool and slightly creepy. I would have never thought to do this. Had an in-depth conversation with an almost 6-year-old about being a secret werewolf hunter at night. Students describe how they track and often makes friends with werewolves. Also demonstrated a stunning amount of knowledge about the moon, haha. 4 folks worried about the vibrant lying. This is very typical for young students and one of their relational avenues for reaching adult reactions. And imaginative storytelling is an important developmental trajectory. At certain points, children start telling stories that they themselves know aren't true, which can be super annoying and is also a wonderful window into a particularly complex part of cognitive development. Close bracket. Our 6-year-old nephew just finished telling us his story about how he was in a band and was falsely arrested. He said it happened about 6 years ago. I love hearing his stories. He has a TV in his bedroom. He was 17. Close bracket. I'm so confused. Is this abnormal or just too normal? I was teaching a 10th grade honors English class once, and this pleasant young woman busted out the C word. "See you next Tuesday." I hadn't had any trouble with her whatsoever, so I was a bit shocked. The whole class went dead silent. I told her she couldn't use that word in class, and she was confused as to which word I was referring to. Finally, I said the C word. She repeated it and then admitted she didn't know there was anything wrong with it because her parents use it at home all the time. The rest of the class let her know it was bizarre that she was using it. Edit. She was not Australian. Related to your story, but not ops question. Canadian here. I worked with an Aussie who would say the C word all the time, including to customers. We co-supervised a restaurant together, and he was 15 years older than me. Super nice guy, hard worker, beloved by staff, cared a great deal about his work and making the customer experience the best possible. Also used the C word like every other sentence. He used it like an exclamation point. Well, C word. We're out of forks. I eventually had to tell him he couldn't say it to customers because it was clearly making them uncomfortable. He was surprised, said the word was just like saying chiz. I countered with, well, we probably shouldn't be saying chiz to the customers either. He did stop using the word with customers, but continued behind the scenes. I just got used to it. I think his name was Carter. He stood up and said, "This is college, by the way. One time I had sex with a girl in the bathroom." He was expelled. He was probably an unstoppable sex machine. My son told his 7th grade teacher that he had a Sasquatch uncle. The teacher was doubtful until my wife wrote the teacher a note scolding the teacher for not believing and backing up my son's story. In retrospect, it's likely the teacher just humored everyone while thinking my wife was a lunatic. Please expand on this. Sasquatch uncle? I'm a trainer at a bank, and I've learned some really interesting things about my colleagues doing icebreakers. One guy used to be in a pretty successful metal band. Another can solve a Rubik's Cube in under 2 minutes. Yes, I made him prove it. One woman was a professional pianist for a while, and another can read tarot cards. I'm seriously thinking of putting on an employee talent show. Obligatory, not a teacher. First year college, a guy shared with a class that he hated dogs. We were veterinary students. 1 year later he dropped out, and 3 years later I dropped out too. Did you discover you hate dogs too, or what happened? Someone said they liked licking their toes. My parents are cousins. A friend of mine revealed their parents are first cousins once when we were all hanging out drinking a little. The awkward silence was followed by, "Have I never mentioned that before?" I had a 3rd grader who was in my gifted and talented class. This is relevant. Her classroom teacher complained to me that when she asked this question of her class, this girl answered that she likes to break things and make voodoo dolls of her enemies. 3rd grade. Needless to say, I told the teacher that somewhere in an 8-year-old girl's bedroom is a voodoo doll of her, and probably me too. It has to be weird to think about how I there's a voodoo doll of you in the world. Taught elementary school the past few years. One kid told me he was a dragon when he was born, but changed into a human as he got older. He was absolutely convinced and couldn't be persuaded. One guy licked the Carly Petri edition at BO. It was his fun facts about me in the yearbook. We did a round table introduce yourself / what you like to do in your free time in college, and I said I like writing poetry and the professor mocked me, so apparently that was weird thing for him for a student to say. That professor sounds like an a-hole. I was probably one of those weird answers. I'm cats over flowers and I'm part of a sword fighting group. Don't think many teachers believed me, but it was true. That strikes me as a perfect reply, plausible and intriguing enough to be memorable. Great fact for 2 truths and a lie too. Not really weird, but she said her name was Ella and that she had a recording contract. I thought that was kinda cool, but really didn't think much of it. 2 years later she was better known to most of the world as Lorde when her song Royals blew up everywhere. I looked her up on Wikipedia because this story seems too good, but she really did get signed with Universal Music Group when she was 13. Jesus Christ. In a community college elementary education reading class we had to do an introduction of ourselves and tell something interesting. Most of the class goes through the motions, expressing where they from, why they wanna teach, and some fun fact about themselves. At the end of the first day our professor said she was going to go last and finish our class time. She just goes on to tell the rough summer she had where she had both a son and her husband diagnosed with cancer. Very sad, and she almost broke down in tears. This was sad enough, but the next class it seemed all students were up to outdo each other with sad tales. I found it hard to believe that there could be so many sad and hard stories from one freshman level education class. The first girl goes into detail how she was raped earlier that summer and how she is having her trial shortly. I'm blown away. Couple students. Another girl later tells the story how her state college roommate committed suicide in their dorm room and this wish said community college. I'm sitting at my desk trying to catch my breath. Another girl tells us that she's at community college to get a degree because she has to raise her 6 children, even though she was only 21. Someone said they were proud of her for bettering herself for her kids. She then tells us that it's okay, she's going for free, because a guy's paying for her clothes, because she told him one of the babies was his. She then whispered jokingly under her breath she's not. I'm kinda blown away at this point. No way can this get more intense. Wrong. One of the last girls gets up in front of the class and immediately starts bawling. Students and teacher encourage her to just sit down, take her time, or just excuse herself. She says she has to do this. She goes into a detailed story of how her dad is in jail for murdering her mom over cheating on him. Everyone is stunned. Students are hugging each other. I don't know if it means I'm insensitive, but I was more than uncomfortable. The teacher expresses she got more out of this than she expected. Yeah, think. The class was weird to go to the rest of the semester, but we got through. Together. You accidentally attended group therapy instead of college class. I work with preschoolers, 3 to 5 age group. One day we had the kids go around and tell us one thing that made them special. Most were pretty normal. I'm really good at drawing. I have 2 big sisters, etc. And then I get to this one little girl super cute and sweet, looks me dead in the eyes, and goes I have been around forever. I have seen the whole world and I know everything. Dead serious. Super creepy. When I pressed her, she couldn't really find the words to explain, but kept talking about how she came from the sand, and was frustrated that she couldn't say it better. I didn't used to believe in past lives, but now I'm not so sure. Bruh, you ran into a ducking elder god. Girl in one of my high school classes announced she was supposed to be dead as her fun fact. Apparently when she was born, she and 2 other newborn babies caught some disease at the same time, and the other 2 died of it. One of my students said that his fun fact was that he hates Israel. It was awkward. Edit, he was a 6th grade boy from India. Hi, I'm Dorian and coming to uni is the only time I'm allowed out because I'm under house arrest for attempted murder. First year university student. First year. Oh my, you watched until the end? That's fucking awesome dude. Thanks for watching.